Welcome back in, everybody, to a Victory Monday edition. A Victory Monday, Birds 365, 10 straight wins for the Philadelphia Eagles. Joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Jeff, how you doing, brother, on this overreaction Victory Monday for the Birds?
What's there to overreact to?
The last drive. Tell me about the last drive, because I overreact to it. I thought that was, in the moment, I thought that was just a terrible decision by Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
why are you not going for this?
Yeah, we were talking about that in our section of the press area too. We're like, why is he punting right now? He's down 2 scores. There's no guarantee he's going to get the ball back, even though there were 10 minutes and 29 seconds left on the clock. They haven't stopped the Eagles all day. I don't know what Mike Tomlin was thinking in that moment.
Yeah. 21 plays, 10 and a half minutes, 10:29 officially. What can you tell us about that? Where I can't remember a game ending like that. You see those long burst drives sometimes, 8, 9 minutes. Anything True Media CBS? How big is that drive in the history of this game?
Well, in the Eagles' history, it's their longest drive in terms of time since 2018, but it's not the longest drive to end a game. We do play-by-play data since 1991. There's only like 4 or 5 since 1991 to end the game like that. So yeah. Eagles did make some history yesterday.
Yeah, it was impressive. And that was, most of what the real impressive stuff happened earlier in the game, and that's getting the passing game going. So the cartel worked for whatever reason. I don't know when the meeting is yet. Have we set that up yet, Jeff? I don't know.
I don't think we set up the meeting. I'm sure we'll let Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown.
We got to go back to we got to go back to the drawing board, because our efforts to destroy this team from inside are not working.
I got an overreaction.
I said to several players yesterday, I'm like, look, they smiled every time I mentioned it to them. I'm like, you guys do know you guys created all this, right? Yeah. You got a teammate that created all this, and it was fun smiling.
Yeah,
they know. It's all fan service.
I got an overreaction for you, Jeff, and you tell me if it's an overreaction. The Eagles passing game is back, baby. It's back.
It left.
It did leave.
It did leave
for 3 weeks.
Why do you guys think it left? Because they led in the fourth quarter?
No, 108 yards versus Carolina, 118 versus Baltimore.
I
get it. I've been saying it forever. I mean, part of it is just the personality of the game and their closing out game, and they never throw it in the fourth quarter. But yeah, effectiveness wise, like if you look at the film, and the yards per attempt have been good for the most part for most of the season. But if you look at that Carolina film and all the open receivers and Jalen Hurts hesitating, no, I'm not buying it. People can point it was.
Well, Carolina was his worst game of the season. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
I mean, listen, AJ Brown went from 3 targets, 4 targets back to 11 targets yesterday. So I mean, it was definitely an increase in targets for both of those players, which I think is a really good thing. But is it enough to give you optimism through the end of the year?
For me, it is. I mean,
I'm with you.
Yeah,
and remember, let me just throw in, Jeff. Remember, like I think people forget, it was AJ, it was Devontae, it was Jalen, it was Nick after the Carolina game, all saying this. Kellen Moore during the week, and AJ and Devontae after the game yesterday said there were uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, that was my takeaway from all of it, and I think it was more than just them too. I think it was a collective effort. I think even the offensive linemen were involved in this, because remember the offensive linemen were talking about the passing game being off last week.
Jordan Lane did. Yeah. Everybody did. Everybody just focused on AJ because they think he wants the ball, even though he never said that.
No. And my big takeaway was, and I talked to some players about this week, what is going to happen, because teams are doing what Mike Tomlin did, doing single high safety, having everybody down to stop Saquon. And Saquon's been getting more looks of 8 men in the box it's like, okay, you're daring a quarterback who actually can throw it, contrary to popular opinion, at least nationally, to do it, and he proved he can do it. He's proven time and time again he can do it, and I think that's why they really want to get the passing game going.
Yeah, and they did. Now let's talk about Saquon because he got a little bit banged up.
Says he's okay.
Says he's okay. He was okay. I mean, he started the third quarter. It happened in the second quarter. Started the third quarter. It's not the first time. I mean, that's just week 15 of the NFL season. He's touched it a ton. Guess what? He's banged up. I don't care about this record, Jeff Kerr. Should anybody care about this record?
I don't. I personally don't think fans care either. I think it's nice to get, but I always thought it was going to be tough sledding to get it anyway, just because of like you said, John, the wear and tear. He's had a lot of carries. I like to see him get 2,000 yards, and I think that's possible. But you want Saquon Barkley ready for the playoffs. The thing is now, I actually think it kind of. I don't want to say yesterday hurts his chances. I actually think in a weird way it kind of improves him because now you have something to play for with home field advantage. So Saquon Barkley is going to play the final 3 games. It's just going to be really tough for him to get that. I don't care personally. I think he's having a hell of a year. I like to see him get 2,000 yards because that's elite company. And you are going to have your place in history.
Well, I think
there.
everybody would. I agree with that. I think but at the end of the day, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think
it's not big of a deal to him either.
Yeah, if it happens in a just a natural sort of, in other words, if he's at 1990 and I not that's too close. If he's at 1900 or going into week 18, and even if they have to win the game and they're beating the Giants by 4 touchdowns, I'm not keeping him out there.
No, I think what means more to Saquon is when I asked him yesterday about being on a team that's won 10 games in a row. What does that mean for him? And he said special. He said he didn't think anybody in the locker room has been on a team that's won 10 games in a row in the NFL. He said it's special.
Well, yeah, the Eagles have gotten close. They won 9 straight, but that's the first time they won 10 straight. They won 9 straight a lot. Boy, are people getting spoiled in this town? Because this team wins an awful lot.
Yeah, I think they've been spoiled since 2000, to be honest with you. We're getting to the point where people are saying Andy Reid is not a great coach. Like, come on. Like, guys running laps around Bill Belichick right now. Bill Belichick had to go to college to duck him.
Well, I blame the NFL for that.
Well, I
don't think he's ducking him. I think he'd love to be in the NFL.
But I actually thought he was going to – I actually thought Bill Belichick was going to be head coach of the Bears. I thought that was the job.
Nobody wants an old guy. They want, they want the next Matt Eberflus. They want the next.
Do you think no one wants an old guy, or do you just don't think they want him changing everything up?
I think, well, a little bit of part, but I think the major part of it is, and it always mystifies me with coaching searches. We want the guy who's going to be here for 15, 20 years. Well, what are the odds? All these shitty teams, they're firing guys every 2 years.
80% of coaches are gone in 3 to 5.
So these are the coaches that have been around for 15, 20 years, like Andy Reid and Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh.
Yeah, exactly. It's ludicrous. Even like the Eagles are trying to run out Nick Sirianni, not the Eagles, but Eagles fans at least, trying to run out Nick Sirianni for a 2-2 start after the collapse last year. Yeah, nobody's lasted 15 years.
Oh, that was the other thing. Saquon. Every time I ask him a question, he always likes to give me a good quote here, and he talk. I forget what I asked him, but he brings up. I remember when we were 2-2. Oh no, it was the 10-game win streak. I remember we were 2-2, and the sky was falling. Everybody wanted the coach fired.
Yeah, by the way, well, the sky was falling. And by the way, the Eagles overreacted to that 2-2 start. I've maintained that from the start. Because remember, AJ didn't play in 3 of those games.
They're 11-0 when AJ Brown plays.
Yeah. And they were like, "Oh my God, we can't throw it. We got to default back." I thought that was a mistake. Now they've won 10 straight,
Now,
but
the biggest revelation coming out of the 10-game win streak was how well the defense has been.
yeah. Oh God, the defense is
They've been
just
insane, Jeff.
Yeah.
nobody talks about the defense because the defense is just there's no EKG with the defense. They're
This
always
is-
good.
This is a fun stat I like to point out about the defense. The defense's highest yards totals happened in the first 4 weeks of the season. That's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, and part of it is just, getting more familiar, big teaching the scheme to the younger players, but
Working on the tackling too, I think, was big.
yeah, the tackling circuits, a lot of good stuff coming from the defense. But when we talk about this stuff every week, we're hyper focused on the offense. One, that's where all the superstars are. But two, they're the ones who are inconsistent from week to week. So there's stuff to talk about. The defense is just solid every week.
Yeah, they held the Steelers to 167 yards yesterday. I don't care if George Pickens plays or not. You held a team that has been averaging 28 points per game, and Russell Wilson starts and is 6-1.
Yeah, he said that offense stinks though.
Yeah, it's not.
But I'm not taking it away from the Eagles. The Eagles defense is great.
I mean, they were swarming to the ball,
and they're gonna be
Pittsburgh's
better.
Best play was a flea flicker.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Boy, that offense is limited though.
Yeah.
Like there are other teams not nearly as qualified as the Eagles defensively.
Anyway,
that are
did you
gonna
guys
shut that
chuckle as much as I did when Nick was trying to talk to Jalen Carter and Clint Hurt was blocking him, and basically Jalen was like kind of smiling through the whole thing?
I did see that. We talked about it a little bit in the open. What'd you make of that, Jet? Like, what do you think of that type of interaction there?
I still think Clint Hurt said to Nick Sirianni, "I'll deal with it. I'll handle it." I think that's if
I hope so, because I hope he wasn't being. And
yes,
I don't
that's the thing. I still say that's disrespectful to a head coach if
I
they
agree,
went any
yeah.
further than that. Because, like, look, you can say whatever you want about Nick. The guy's 46-19. Show some respect for the guy.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, and he's the head coach. You're not.
And I don't know. I don't know what Clint. I said if Clint did anything, like he's off. Yeah, he's off the reservation. You have to let. And even if Nick should handle it better in the moment, because we all know Nick's a hothead. And he might.
Put Miles.
That's something you might want to address after the game.
Was he even asked about it after the game, John? You were in.
Yeah, he was asked about it, and he basically said we're going to keep that in house and all that kind of stuff. But he did say, "Hey, he made a play that is not part of our standards, so my job is to correct that." Now, do you correct it on national television and embarrass what's an immature kid to begin with? Needs to mature a little bit. Maybe I would have handled it. Maybe you can argue that.
I mean, Nick does know that he had a couple other defensive players. I know the penalties went to the Steelers, but the Eagles were a little chippy in that little brawl in the end zone.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. We got a pool report about that. I was stunned the Eagles didn't get flagged on that.
I thought Quinyon Mitchell was going to get flagged.
Yeah, he threw punches, and the officials like,
Yeah,
we
Slay
didn't
threw a
see.
haymaker. Quinyon threw a haymaker.
No, they didn't see it. They didn't see it.
In my video, Broderick Jones threw a couple haymakers. He got nothing.
Yeah.
This is like I thought. I'm like, am I in like a bizarro world? So the question is, did you see any punches thrown? No punches were observed on the field. Since we had flags down, also, it gave New York an opportunity to review the play as well. There was no video evidence of punches observed by the Philadelphia Eagles.
I have
Are you freaking kidding me?
I have a video where there's punches.
What?
These guys, I'll tell you what. They
By the way,
really
for
get
all
up.
the I hate officials, yeah, explain that one. Because that one went to the Eagles and shouldn't have. For all those, the officials are against the Eagles, and New York's against the Eagles. Because Everybody in that building saw punches thrown by the Eagles.
Just
Not
remember,
New
John,
York.
everybody is against the Eagles. The
Yeah.
officials, the national media, the local media, everybody's against them.
All right, enough of that bullshit. Jeff, NFC. Lions lose yesterday. Eagles win. Now you almost control your own destiny. You need one more loss each from the Lions and the Vikings, but they play each other in the last game of the year. So you're probably good for a loss for one of them.
Do the Eagles need?
You can't almost. I'm going to
I thought
jump
the
in
Eagles
here.
had the tiebreaker over the Vikings.
See,
I
I
thought
don't
they
know.
didn't. See, I thought they
I'll have
didn't.
to look that up, Zander.
Yeah.
I'll have to
Yeah,
look.
you got to, because I read online, and it might not be true. Admittedly, it was like a tweet or somebody put it on Twitter that
I'm
if
gonna
the
look
Lions
this up
went
now
out
for you.
or the Vikings went out, that they would win. But I think we're.
Well,
we're
I
in a
just
good-
want to correct something because I'm a nitpicker with this
Okay,
kind
go
of
ahead.
stuff. You cannot almost control your destiny. They do not control their destiny.
Yeah, they do not control their destiny. The Lions control their destiny.
Yes. I don't know about the Vikings. Jeff's got to look that up.
Yeah, I'm looking this up now. Okay.
Just win every fucking game you can, Eagles, and that's controlling your.
Well, they have
destiny.
to.
I
They
hear
have
what you're
to.
saying, though.
They have to win.
So right now, now the Vikings play. They play tonight.
Yeah.
They play NFC games the rest of it. Right now, the Eagles have a better conference record than the Vikings. But the Vikings,
if they would go 4-0 in the conference, so
yeah. So Minnesota has the next tiebreaker, which is strength of victory. Actually, no. Do the Vikings? No, right now the Eagles do because they beat Pittsburgh. So the Eagles got that strength of victory tiebreaker, and they have the strength of schedule tiebreaker.
Yeah, but
right
think
now,
about it. Vikings would have to knock off the Lions in the last game.
They
Yeah.
also play the Packers too, don't they?
yes.
Yeah, so they have.
So their path is harder. I did this in my overreactions piece late last.
Their
night.
path is much harder. But I
Yeah.
think if they win out, they might.
If they
You know-
win out, they will jump the Eagles in strength of victory
Yes.
because they're playing Green Bay.
Well,
and they're
would they
playing
jump
Detroit.
them in conference as well? That's my question. 'cause
Well,
conference-
no, they'll be tied in conference, so it goes to strength of victory.
All right.
That's the next tiebreaker. And because the Giants suck and the Cowboys suck, it does not help But Washington being 9-5 right now does help the Eagles. So I'll have to calculate it, but I think Minnesota would have that just because of those two. If they beat those two teams and finish 15-2.
Yeah, but their schedule's brutal. So the Eagles' advantage is their schedule is not brutal. They beat, Washington's the last test, let's be honest. And they're a significantly better football team. With the NFC East on the line, they still haven't clinched that technically.
They'll clinch the 2 seed next week if they win too.
Yes. Because obviously the loser of the NFC North will bump down to the BIP seed, which is bullshit, but that's the way the NFL does it. But and then somebody's got to win the NFC West, and somebody's got to win the NFC South.
By the way, the Rams took over first place in the NFC West last night because
and Geno Smith got hurt, so Rams could be in good shape.
The 49ers are mathematically still alive.
Yeah, and didn't the Bucks move into first in the NFC?
They moved in first a couple weeks ago. So,
and I know the Bucks are going to scare Eagles fans, and they should because they've beaten them.
They are a good team.
They are a good team, but
Baker Mayfield's having a really good year. They got 2 running backs who have like a combined 17 or 1,800 yards. They got a pretty good team this year. I'm not going to lie. I mean, they're a pretty good squad. Baker Mayfield's been impressive.
They were pretty good last year.
The NFC is actually a much deeper conference than the AFC.
Yeah, I agree.
Much.
I don't know what happened. The AFC was dominant for like a couple of years, and now it looks like the NFC's better.
Like I wrote this in my overreactions piece too, and I said this isn't a overreaction. The AFC is their 7 playoff teams right now. Like the 7 that are in right now are going to be the 7. There's 3 teams that are 6 and 8. It's the Dolphins, the Bengals, and the Colts. Well, the Broncos just beat the Colts. So
right,
the Colts
so you got the Ravens,
out.
Broncos, and Chargers who all have winning records. They're going to be your 3 wildcard teams.
Yeah, honestly, the top AFC teams are going to be playing each other over the next couple of weeks, but they're still kind of locked in. It's just more.
What a pitiful performance by the Chargers yesterday. I haven't looked into it.
I didn't see that.
You know what? I've said this all year. I think they're the most overrated team in football, the Chargers. And I like Jim Harbaugh.
40-17 at home, although they never play a home game, but they're at home against Tampa. I mean, that's
Baker Mayfield 22 of 27, 288, and 4 tutties.
Speaking of home games,
that's pathetic. But they also gave up 223 on the ground. That's the bigger issue.
speaking of home games, there were a lot of yellow towels at Lincoln Financial Field yesterday.
Oh, Pittsburgh is.
They travel well.
Yeah. For all the, everybody here likes to say the Eagles have the best traveling fan base. I'm not sure they do.
There are a
I
lot of
think they do.
Steelers fans around this country.
Yeah, they're Steelers and Packers. I say, those two teams can give anybody a run for their money. That's all.
It's a
I'm
toss
saying.
up between all three of them. I think you're right. You're not wrong. Those are great fan bases too, but I'll put the Eagles in there as well.
I'll say this though with Eagles fans. I think Eagles fans are more local, if that makes sense. Like they're like the brand. I feel like Steelers is a national brand.
I think
Well, a lot of
Packers
that has to
brand.
do with their success and early on where they had, back in the day when they were winning bowls left and right, doesn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the Eagles are catching up.
I think they are too because they're winning a lot. And
Yeah.
I've said this too. Like I love to get on Packers fans about this more than Steelers fans because we are in PA. I can understand it. But I love Packers fans around this area. I always ask them, especially older ones. Well, why are you a Packers fan? Well, Vince Lombardi. Okay, how old were you when Vince Lombardi was around? Well, I wasn't. Okay, so you like the Packers when they sucked in the 70s and 80s. Well, that's not true.
Ask them if they like Lynn Dickey. Yeah. There was a 20
take. Someone said this about Philly fans too. Steeler fans don't travel. They just move the hell out of Pittsburgh.
I mean, it is funny. I mean,
by the way, I love Pittsburgh. At least I don't spend a lot of time there. Their setup downtown with the stadiums is
it's
phenomenal.
Beautiful.
It's phenomenal.
PNC Park, I always recommend.
The whole city's painted yellow, though. It's just an ugly city in my opinion.
Black and
See,
yellow.
I disagree. I love the whole bridge setup. I think
it's fucking ugly. Are you kidding me?
No, I disagree.
There's nothing aesthetically architecturally pleasing about that to me.
Boy, really? I think that's just a hatred of the football team.
No, I don't even hate the Steelers. I don't.
I'm like, I think it's cool. The whole bridge set at the Three Rivers.
There's a family connection for the Steelers in my family, so I can't hate.
I just think the city is. I think the way the city is set up is cool. Now, I would hate to be there in the winter. I have no interest in it, but
I have no interest in being here in the winter.
Like, are you telling me that Pittsburgh's not a cooler setup than Philadelphia Center City? Like, Philadelphia does nothing with the river, the Delaware. For years, you could have so much set up down there, and they do nothing.
Penn's Landing is the most overrated project Philadelphia's ever had.
Yeah, don't even get me started on the city of Philadelphia.
I'm not going to sit here and act like Philly does everything right. I'm just telling you, Pittsburgh.
I just think it's a way better looking city downtown. I don't even think it's close. I'm sorry. I'm going to get in trouble.
We are an important city in the history of our country. Pittsburgh,
well, that's true.
Well, I think our city should actually do more with the history than what they do, and I think we do a solid job with it.
I'm just talking pure aesthetic look.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's all I'm talking about.
I think the yellow bridges are ugly. I don't like the yellow bridges, John.
Well, I don't care about the color. I just think it's a cool.
I hear you.
Cool look.
You know, it's funny when I talk to a lot of my buddies from Pittsburgh. They're like, "Oh, traffic's terrible here." I'm like, "You ever been to Philly?"
Terrible everywhere.
Well, any big city in the world. That is how it works. I mean, I lived in Houston for 2 years. I would go. It doesn't matter what time you left your house. You were stuck in traffic in a 6-lane highway in Texas.
Yeah, I see. I even think that's
worse.
Where
the hell are all these people coming from?
Philly at least has an excuse because they got that stupid law that Delco pointed out on 476 that makes 3 lanes into 2.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they have an excuse. They don't have a 6-lane highway.
Jeff, I want to ask you about another player, all right? He's a guy that's really stood out to me in recent weeks. Nolan Smith. What have you seen from him? Is he really starting to turn the page as being a viable NFL player, NFL edge rusher, in your opinion? What have you seen from Nolan
he's
Smith?
Definitely viable. I mein, he had half the team's pressures yesterday. They had 4. I mean, they had 8. He had 4 of them. I really like the way Nolan has been playing. I think a lot of that has to do with Vic Fangio and Clint Hurt, maybe. And again, defensive ends, pass rushers, they take more time to develop in this league. And the Eagles openly admitted multiple times last year we should have got Nolan Smith on the field more. I noticed, and like I didn't want to write the guy off or anything after year one, but I noticed in the playoff game against Tampa last year, with all this, he actually had a pretty good game in that last year. And I was like, you know what, this guy could break out a little bit this year. I think he's done that. I mean, I've been pretty impressed. He's come a long way from the third game of the preseason where he couldn't get on the field.
Right.
Yeah, I think what impresses me most about Nolan is not the pass rushing; it's how he sets the edge. You look at him, his size and
underrated run stop.
Yeah, he was great. That's what they said at Georgia. He was great setting the edge at Georgia, and I think that surprises people because he is so undersized. Just a really physical player. And yeah, maybe that's one of those things where you never want guys to get injured. BG was playing at a high level, but you throw him into the deep end of the pool and all of a sudden you go, this isn't bad. Sometimes that stuff works out. And it's worked out, but boy, I mean, they were on the field, I think, for 41 plays, the defense. At some point, is somebody going to test this defense?
Well, they kind of were tested in the first quarter when the Eagles were fumbling the ball away.
That's true.
That's true. The short field.
The Eagles had their best first quarter of the year with 10 points, and they had another touchdown right after the quarter ended. And they had 2 turnovers. I'm like, boy, it shows you how good this team is when they have a passing game.
The Steelers started the game running 16 plays for 11 yards. I'm like,
yeah, what was it?
Okay.
They didn't get a first down till I think 9 minutes left.
It was an ugly start for Pittsburgh.
You know what I think was
it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. When they didn't even get a first, it was pathetic.
It was 148-2 total yards in the first quarter.
First quarter, yeah.
Also, I thought this was probably the most impressive play of the defense, and they gave up a 31-yard pass. It was the flea flicker.
Zach Bond, yeah.
And Zach Bond was beaten. And look, Zach Bond can't tell where the ball is, but if Zach Bond just does this, he knocks that down.
Yeah, I was like, he's running with a receiver like he's Derek Brooks. I said that on the, and he was really disappointed in himself for that play. And I'm like, dude, you're running with a receiver 30 yards down the field.
If I'm Bobby King, if I'm interviewing for a defensive coordinator job, I'm just showing him pictures of Zach Bond and the Kobe Dean and say, "There's my resume. Do what you want with it."
He deserves coordinator looks. That's another thing. We'll get to this down the road. But
they're gonna poach the Eagles.
Yeah, they're gonna poach the Eagles again. Be prepared for this.
That's what happens when you win football games, John.
Yeah.
Who, in your guys' opinion, is the top priorities on defense? Because there's a lot of guys who are in a contract year who could, on a one-year deal. Yeah, well, I think he's obvious. Does Milton become the next guy? Is he a priority in your opinion? Like,
you got Josh Sweat too to worry about.
Josh Sweat's a big one.
Yeah, but every team has that. Yeah. People get way too hype. They won 10 straight. They're trying to get the number 1 seed. They're trying to go to the Super Bowl. That stuff will handle itself. Can you keep everybody? No, you can never keep everybody. But yeah, the goal number 1 would be Zach Bond, and then the way this trickles down.
The way this GM has had hit rates on the first round in the last couple years,
and that's another thing. You have to look at the draft, and probably they're going to look at edge rusher. Are they going to be able to get edge rusher drafting so deep in the first round? That affects your decision making.
Yeah, I talked to some people. It's a really, really good offensive line class this year.
The Eagles
I think the 3 positions, Jeff, where it's deep, if I'm not mistaken, are edge, offensive line, and tight end.
I've heard edge too. Well, tight end. I mean, look, I'm going to show my bias here. The Eagles could draft Tyler Warren right now, and I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah, he's a good. I'm no Penn State honk, but he's a good player, man.
Warren is. There's, he's not the best tight end though.
No, he's not. Colton Upwood.
Michigan. Is he, the Michigan kid.
Yeah, he was hurt this year. But Tyler Warren in this offense would be something.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, the Eagles are getting Dallas Goedert back for the playoffs by all indications. So,
Yeah, his season's far from over.
Does it seem to you guys that Jalen Hurts likes to throw the ball to Grant Calcaterra more than he likes to throw the ball to Dallas Goedert? Or is that just a figment of my
They have
imagination?
the relationship from college too.
Yeah, they do.
yeah, they
But-
do, but no, I don't think that's the case. He throws the ball to Dallas a lot.
He likes to go to his tight
Yeah.
ends. He always did. Like even in the beginning, like of his Eagles tenure, when he was a starter, he went to Zach Ertz a lot.
Yeah, I guess it's more just I guess my expectation for Goddard is probably too high when you're the third option in the passing. I mean, it's inevitable when you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in front of you that you're not going to be top priority. And I think the way we talk about Goddard makes me think, well, he should be a top priority. He's that good of a tight end. But I get it. It's kind of lost in the.
By the way, I had to get a lot of this. I don't even call it bitter because it's not. But I posted a couple times this week the Eagles' path to win the NFC East, to get the 2 seed this week, and all I heard all week was, "Why are you even posting this? The Saints have no business beating the Commanders. Saints are not going to beat the Commanders.
They were a 2-point
They were a
conversion away.
Johnson catch away from the Eagles wrapping all this up this week."
Yeah, 2-point conversion away. By the way, I like that New Orleans went for it.
I did too.
Terrible call at the end. Although, the
It
receiver in the
wasn't a
back of the end
terrible
zone.
call.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I don't like cutting off one side of the field, but I get it from the perspective of young quarterback. So you try to make it as easy as possible for him. Spencer Rattler has some athleticism, so I get it from that perspective. But I just hate cutting off the field with the game on the line.
Yeah, but look, that's an interim head coach, and they are playing hard for him right now. It's sure a lot harder than they were playing for Dennis freaking Allen.
I knew you were going to. I knew you were going to. It's not a
Dennis Allen
Monday.
sucks. He's a
It's not a
terrible
Jeff
head
Kerr
coach.
Monday without a shot at Dennis Allen.
I said right away, it was in my own reaction
Not-
feed, the
yeah.
States are going to start winning games.
What
as
did
soon as he
Dennis
gets fired.
Allen do to you?
Nothing.
What
He's just not a head coach. I don't think guys that are 9-33 in their first stint as a head coach should be a head coach.
I don't disagree that he's not a good head coach, but I just think there's some personal animus.
No,
there.
I love it. I
It
love
does
his
seem
defensive
like it.
coordinator. Put him there. So I'll tell you what, if there's any team that needs a defensive coordinator this offseason, that's the first guy I'm calling.
It wouldn't be the first quarter. Hey, if a coach treats you like shit, they deserve to get some. But I've never gotten that from Dennis Allen. He seems like a good enough guy, but
Yeah, he is.
I don't think he's a good head coach. But I never advocate firing coaches in season. It does no good. What
Ask
this
the
bullshit?
Jets how that's going.
Yeah, this bullshit about firing. Well, we want to get a head start. Well, the Jets GM search is a good example. You can't interview any of the people you want to interview, so you interview retreads. You don't end up.
Their former GM was here yesterday. I don't know if
he
you
was
saw
here.
him.
Yeah. So was Andy Weidel. So
Yeah,
everybody was here.
I know how that
Well,
works.
party in Philly yesterday with all the Howie Roseman.
Yeah, remember that narrative? Joe Douglas was the real reason behind Howie Roseman's success.
Yeah, no. Howie Roseman's and he is getting better and better.
That's what happens when you've had the job for 15 years and you let a guy
I know,
grow.
but not everybody gets better and better like that, Jeff. I mean, he's I give Howie a lot of credit, man. He's really turned into a
Howie gets enough flowers. Don't give Howie more flowers.
Yeah, John doesn't like when I give Howie flowers. I think he deserves it, man. I think when you earn flowers, he also has gotten a lot of shit, John, in Philly.
You give him a big head. He has given a lot of shit. That's why he's got the darkest tint you can have.
I'll tell you what, Howie reads everything good said about it. Guaranteed.
He's got the darkest tint you can buy because of all the shit he got in Philadelphia.
I don't blame him, and he probably tells the cop when they pull him over for it, I ain't changing it. So just get ready to keep writing.
By the way, guys, speaking of future Eagles opponents here, what the heck is going on down in Dallas right now? They're already talking about trading Micah Parsons. Technically, they're not eliminated yet.
please give me Micah in Philly so that I can listen to you two tell me how generational of a talent he is. And then at that point, I'll actually like listening to it. Please.
Yeah, I take the opposite. Please give me Micah Parsons in Philadelphia so I can shut up all these Eagles fans who claim he isn't good.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
You know what? You want a guy who creates self-inflicted drama? Micah Parsons.
Well, that's true. You might not want that part of it, but they'll love him on the field. I guarantee you that.
My favorite Micah Parsons moment this year, and he's had some good ones, was when he was on his podcast naming the top 10 quarterbacks in football, and he doesn't even name his own quarterback.
Now, Jeff Kerr is a Penn State guy, and I've said this to Jeff Kerr.
By the way, him and Saquon are close.
Yeah, well, I say the best player from Penn State in the NFL ain't Saquon. He's number 2.
Well, it's Micah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the Steelers have a good Penn State player on their team. They have 2, actually.
A lot of people have. There's a lot of good Penn State players. Joey Porter Jr., not one of them.
Pat Fryermuth's a good player.
Hey, Fryermuth's a very good player. I was surprised they didn't go to him a little bit more early and often.
My bold prediction was he was going to get 10 targets. I don't think he got 10.
Yeah, I don't like that offense. But and Fryermuth is a very good player, but when that's your best offensive player, I don't like that.
I was laughing last week, by the way. I know we're going back to Belichick here. But when they're like, Arthur Smith, North Carolina was interested in him. And then you hear the Belichick stuff. I'd be like, hey, Arthur, go away.
Yeah, really.
Bill Belichick or Arthur Smith, which one do you want?
I still can't believe Bill did that. I mean, I think it's interesting. I'm kind of excited to see it, but interesting.
You know what? I think if I was an 18, 19-year-old kid, I want to be coached by Bill Belichick.
I would. But the 18, 19-year-old kids today, Jeff, I just don't know what they're like.
Well, I know what they're like. How much money are you giving?
Yeah, how much money? How much money followed by how much playing time?
Yeah, because playing time means money.
If I'm not going to play or if I'm not getting NIL money, I'm going to go in the transfer portal. That's why I can't believe Bill did it.
Penn State's backup quarterback's in the transfer portal right now. They have a playoff game on Saturday.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's a perfect example of what I'm saying. I mean, what? Boy, yeah, they should push that back to at least after the playoff.
Well, that's what people were saying. Like, they don't blame the player; they're blaming the game right now. This is the game.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that.
No,
so all these playoff teams have guys in the portal?
Yeah, some do.
Yeah, that's not a good setup, man.
No, it should be after the season. Have the portal set up January 21st, right after the national championship ends. You can do all you want with it.
Yeah, that's the simplest fix in the world.
Yeah, it's like everybody thinks Major League Baseball free agency starts heats up around the winter meet, but it actually starts like a day after the World Series. Like, why can't you do that in college football?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I do not like the college. That's what I can't believe Bill Belichick wants any part of that. Any part of that, other than he's just
probably
because it's lifer.
Probably because it's more like the NFL now. And I do sincerely believe Bill. I always wanted to coach a college team, but you're not leaving the New England Patriots to go coach a college team when you're winning Super Bowls left and right.
Well, that's
I also think UNC's an interesting pick too. It's not particularly a football, a big football school. They're a great.
Maybe that's the goal though. He's trying to make it.
Maybe he likes the quieter expectations.
Every North Carolina grad I talk to, they say the same thing. We win in everything but football. They do.
Well, yeah. But it's a basketball school. It will always be a basketball school.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with it.
Well, this is what recruits going to be hearing. Ready? They got Bill Belichick calling them. They got Lawrence Taylor calling them, and they got Michael Jordan calling them. Hey, come down to Chapel Hill.
What about Drake May? You don't think they're calling him?
Shit, I'm in, man. I can wear the Jordan brand and get coached by Belichick.
No. You know what, Zander? I'm going to go back to your alma mater here, Alabama. You know why Alabama's good at basketball right now? Cha-ching, cha-ching. Yep. Their NIL is so impressive. Want to talk about impressive NIL?
We're about to stink in football for a little bit.
One bad year.
I'm not a big fan of this new coach, Jeff.
You know, it doesn't know when the ACC Alabama's playing Texas.
Well, and by the way, the fact that no NFL team wants Bill Belichick is an indictment on the NFL and these moron decision makers. Because who are the hot candidates going to be besides Ben Johnson? I want this guy. I want this guy.
It ain't going to be Bobby Slowick, I'll tell you that.
And you make these horrific decisions. I want Dave Canales. Oh, do you? Yeah.
Yeah, really. Over Bill Belichick. That'll turn your franchise around.
How about the Falcons, like, just basically botching it? Oh, we'll take Raheem Morris, who was really bad.
Yeah, nothing against any of these guys. Dave, Raheem Morris. Yeah, Atlanta could have had him. And, I need Raheem Morris.
Here's my favorite. Let's not fire Matt Eberflus, who was terrible, but for Bill Belichick, see if we can get him. Instead, we'll keep Matt Eberflus and we'll just change it up.
You wonder why these organizations are bad organizations right there.
Do you think the Bill Belichick interest in the Jets was sincere? I kind of think it
I don't know. I've heard so many stories from Gary Myers, who, is really plugged into New York football, that how much Belichick hates the Jets.
Well, he can't stand them.
But if he wants a coach so badly, so the story was that he called Woody Johnson and the Jets and who he hates. I don't know how much I believe that. I don't know.
I've always given Bill credit for this when he basically resigned from the Jets the day he got hired.
On a bar napkin.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've read books. I've heard stories. It basically was, well, no, Woody Johnson was not the owner I signed up to do this for.
Yeah.
So, no, and I don't like the way he's going with this. No, this isn't the boss I want to have. So I'm out.
Jeff, let me get it back to the Eagles here. Are they the best team in football right now?
I'd say yes.
I'm going to say yes, too.
I would say yes. Look, I still think Detroit's really good. But see the clinic Buffalo put on them?
Yeah, and did you see the two dudes?
I mean, honestly, you can make a case Buffalo's the best team, right?
Nah, I can't.
I don't think so because of their defense.
Yeah.
Eagles have a much better defense.
On this date, where are we? December 16th snapshot. The Eagles are the best team in football.
And there's nothing wrong.
But
also,
that doesn't mean anything. Got to keep it going. Got to keep it going.
Had an impressive win yesterday, but I thought they looked good. But Patrick Mahomes probably is not playing Saturday. We're going to see Carson.
That's awesome. Could you imagine
it is.
Carson Wentz against the Eagles in the Super Bowl?
So DeCheco and I were watching the end of that Chiefs game because Carson was in. And we're both like saying, this guy looks like a guy who played in the NFL 9 years. He looked like a kid in a candy store. Like, all right, I get the quarterback. The Chiefs.
Did he play yesterday? Did he step in for Mahomes yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, he threw a couple crisp passes too. He was ready to go.
Oh God.
Andy Reid is going to reclamate Carson Wentz.
He reclamated Nick.
I freaking love that story. If that, I don't want Patrick Mahomes to be hurt, but that would be the greatest story.
I think a lot of people in this town
in Philadelphia.
I think a lot of people.
Are you kidding me?
I actually think they will.
Against the Eagles?
Not against the Eagles. I mean, like right now, like Carson against the Texans on Saturday or Carson against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm not saying against the Eagles, no.
2 for 2 for 20 yards, Carson Wentz.
And he looked crisp doing it.
Had a better passer rating than Patrick Mahomes. So
by the way, John, how about my bold prediction yesterday and he got benched? Jake Haener,
yeah. Bench for Spencer Rattler. And Spencer brings him back. They would have won the game.
Brought him back. They should have won yesterday.
The Eagles probably be NFC East champions if Spencer Rattler played that whole game.
I think John and I spent an hour yesterday just complaining about how bad the 1 o'clock sleep was.
Oh my God, it was the worst ever.
It's terrible.
Not one compelling game.
I think that's why they kept the Eagles Commanders at 1. I think they needed to have a good 1 o'clock game.
I was talking to Zach last night, and he said he thinks the 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock shift is different. There's so many TV rules now.
I don't know. I've talked to people. I talked to some TV people, and I don't think it can be moved.
All right.
But we'll see. I mean, later in the season, there might be different. I'll ask some people today.
Well, the only reason it would make sense that 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock would be different because you could, if it's CBS, you could move a 1 o'clock CBS to a 4 o'clock CBS.
CBS has done that before, but
Right, and then if it's
it with
Fox,
the 12-day
same
window.
thing. You could keep it on the same network. If you got to move a game off a network, though, that's where I think you're getting to. You know, that's why the Sunday night flexes are hard. You can't really.
Well, logistically too, it is harder to move a 1 and an 8. It just is like because you're doing travel plans,
right?
And you're, like.
And speaking of our travel plans, Jeff, we're not going to FedEx Field. We're going to Northwest.
Whatever.
What's it called? Man, Northwest Stadium.
Wait, did they change the name?
Yeah, they did. They got new name rights.
Yes.
When was that?
Last season?
Year? No, this season. This is the first season.
Okay. It wasn't FedEx Field last year, though, right?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Or was last year the last year the naming rights deal?
FedEx Field is a pile of shit, isn't it?
I think they stopped calling it. Yeah, I think it ran out last year, and they stopped calling it anything. And then they got a new.
One of my first viral tweets had to do with FedEx Field. So it was like, I want to say it was like 2012, 2013, something like that. And they found like a horde of wasp in like the top of FedEx.
So many great.
And I said they've probably been living in there since 1997.
Yeah, I always said they should have gotten like a sewage company to do for when the sewage pipes would burst and the fans would get raw sewage dripped on them. Perfect.
Nasty ass FedEx Field.
My favorite moment with FedEx Field, actually, I was at Penn State, Indiana in 2010, which for some godforsaken
By the way, they had Army Navy there. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
You know what's ridiculous about the Army Navy? It's only in Philly like once in the next 5 years.
Yeah,
they're rotating
terrible.
And they're like,
I couldn't believe Navy won. I was surprised. I thought Army.
You know what's interesting is you drive there, Jeff. You always go through,
that town.
You see all the it might be NASA, it might be a CIA, but I forget. There's a couple of government sort of signs and buildings along the way, and they're all dilapidated. It's like, what are we doing in this country? What are we doing? It's like freaking fix this shit up. And it reminds me of FedEx Field.
The locals tell me all the time the biggest problem with FedEx Field is the metro does not take you there.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
But
they will be moving downtown. I believe they will get that done.
Are they going to move in the rat-infested RFK or whenever they tear that down?
Well, they're going to tear it down and build a new one. Or, but now they're all bidding because Daniel Snyder's out. So Maryland wants to keep it. Virginia wants it downtown.
Your sources have told me Northern Virginia may be the spot.
It might be. And that makes it an even farther trip.
Yeah, I don't want to go through D.C. to get to that stadium.
Yeah. So I advocate for Baltimore.
You know where I advocate for? Whatever's closest to me. How's that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
all
right.
If they build a stadium in Zander's backyard, I'd be all for it.
How about that? How about Delaware?
Yeah, that's
why
nice.
not Delaware? You know what? Martin Frank, he got to start advocating for that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, before I let you go, man, your final thoughts on this game, man. 10 straight for the Birds. They're up there. They started 2-2. Now they're 12-2. Crazy turnaround for this team. Defense is humming. Offense now getting their passing game humming. Your final thoughts on this game, brother?
I'll say this. A couple of weeks ago when they beat Baltimore, I said it's probably no reaction right now to say they can win out. I'm starting to believe they're going to win out.
It looks like it, man.
That's crazy. 15-2.
15-2. Do you know how hard it is to go 15-2?
Wait, so think about this, guys. Think about this for a second. If they win out, they'll be 15-2. That'll be 13 straight wins for the team. And then if you go into the playoffs, let's just say they don't get the bye. In order to win the Super Bowl, that would have to be 17 straight wins.
It's
and
been
even
done.
With the bye, it would be 16 straight wins. I'm like, holy shit. Now,
yeah, I'm not one that I don't buy into that. You want to get a loss out of the way. If you're better than everybody, just go beat everybody.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
I'm not saying get a loss. I'm just saying that would be pretty remarkable.
I'm just saying, when they came out the 17-game schedule, you would have told me the Eagles were going to be going 15-2 once the next 10 years. I'm like, how the hell
I said 13-4, and John laughed at me.
I did. I did.
I had 12 and 5. I'm off.
You're an
I
Eagle.
had
They have to lose out
11.
now.
Yeah,
I had 11. Now, I thought the ceiling for this defense was 15th, 16th.
Which would have been a hell of a year.
Yeah.
The
defense never gets talked about. We barely talked about it today. We talked about it a little bit.
Yeah,
They never get talked. That's what turned this team into a 15-win team.
Spare the whole MVP talk with Saquon. Spare the whole Eric Dickerson rushing record. I'm going to tell you this. If Vic Fangio does not win Assistant Coach of the Year, I am going to lose my marbles.
Oh, my God. What he has done with this defense is just...
It's a slam dunk. He's going to win Assistant of the Year.
Always, because I've seen it so many times when players go from one place to another, how special this season is. It never works out as well as people envision, almost 90% of the time. Here you have Saquon worked out better than anybody could have even imagined. And then Vic Fangio as a coach. Talk about a ceiling. These guys even exploded the ceiling as far as performance. And with Vic's reputation, I was like, there's no way he could be as good as his reputation. He's better.
Yeah, it's nuts, right? Like, we all knew how good of a coordinator he was. And I criticized the hire. I'm like, well, why don't you just change up the defense? Like, no, they decided, we'll just get the actual base.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hate the scheme. I still hate the scheme.
But it works. But you got the right pieces.
It works when you have him running it. It doesn't work when you have anybody else running it.
Yeah, like they hated Sean Desai last year. Yeah. They hated him.
Because it's not about the scheme. It's about teaching the scheme. That's what I think most people don't get.
And I think what helped is the Eagles got two young guys, impressionable guys, in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and Zach Bond, who really hasn't been a defensive savant, until this year. Nick Hobie, it's like these guys want to be coached up by somebody better. I really think that's what happened. They're like, well, okay, we'll listen to this guy.
I always say, Jeff, in this world, you can go on Google right now and find all of Vic Fangio's schemes and, playbooks, literal playbooks. That shit doesn't matter. Can you teach it? Can you teach the players to perform it? That's what he does. He can.
His
copycats cannot. You and I can copy it tomorrow. Can we go out there and teach them? No.
It's like, what we see on X. You see a lot of guys break down film. You see a lot of guys do this, but it's not the same as, like you said, John, actually teaching it, actually showing.
Yep. Jeff, good stuff, man. We appreciate you joining today. We'll talk to you again soon. It's a big win for the Birds, and we appreciate you reacting to it with us here on Birds 365, right, brother?
All right, get some sleep. He was on with Ricky. What'd you get on? 4 a.m?
Yeah, something like that. It was late. And, now I'm getting texts from editors saying, oh, you missed this team. You missed this team when you did your playoff picture last night. I'm like, guys, I worked like 18 hours yesterday. Like, calm down.
Yeah.
Jeff.
You know how it works, Jeff.
Yeah. Jeff, I appreciate you carving some time out for us, brother. Your work is appreciated here, and we appreciate you joining the show. We'll talk to you again next week. All right, man?
That sounds good.
Thanks,
Jeff. Great stuff from Jeff. Make sure you guys follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff Kerr CBS. Read all his work at CBS Sports. He does an excellent job, Jeff Kerr, covering the NFL and covering the Eagles. So good stuff there. Johnny Mac, we'll get to a break. Before I do that, I do want to read off a couple super chats here. Jason A-Team says, it's the third time this year someone blocks and drives Slay all the way out of bounds and tries to hurt him. What is up with that? It is weird.